Shalom and welcome to another Bible study that Yahweh has enjoined unto us here in this body of Yahshua. My name is Esaac ben Israel and I'm the elder priest of the United Congregation of Israel. And I'm joined here with the under priest, Priest Kish. Shalom, my brother.
Shalom.
All right. So today we're going to get into a little something because of a question that sometimes questions seem, kind of light. There was a question where a female was asking, is it, all right for, her to do grilling? And you ask this, question and it just seems like a trivial thing. But it's actually a little deeper when you get into it. And basically is how men act around the grill. And it's kind of funny because a man will let a woman have free reign of the kitchen, but when it comes to that grill, he has an attitude problem. He don't like anybody just walking up to the grill. He got a serious chip on his shoulder when it come down to this grill. And it's interesting that we will look at cooking on the inside as something that's completely suitable for a female. But when it comes down to getting on that grill, men, and especially black men, have a serious something going on with the grill. Now, believe it or not, this has a biblical connection. Now, they don't know what that is. They just have this thing that's there. There's this fascination with the fire. People will tell you all of their methods of how this one starts the fire, how long you let the fire go before you start, cooking and whatnot. So we have to first deal with the correlation with this fire. I want to start in Exodus chapter 3. Exodus chapter 3. And we're going to start this at verse 1.
Now Moshe kept the flock of Jethro, his father-in-law, the priest of Midian, and he led the flock to the backside of the desert and came to the mountain of Elohim, even to Horeb.
Now, when you first of all see how Yahweh deals with things, he has him with a foreigner, if you will. He hasn't, set forth any laws, of course, but then he's learning from a man who is still a priest. He's learning from a man who has knowledge in dealing with things. He is a man who has been exercised. So Yahweh is teaching him, even though what he deals with is not what Yahweh is going to have Moshe deal with. There are principles that are still the same, okay? There are principles as far as, okay, if you're going to be a mechanic, there are certain principles that are going to be the same. Now, later on, you may learn something specific to this type of individual, but type of vehicle, but you still have to have certain basics before you can even get to the next level of dealing with whatever that is you're learning. Go ahead.
Verse 2. And the angel of Yahweh appeared unto him in a flame of fire out of the midst of a bush.
So then the first appearance of Yahweh to this man comes in a flame of fire. You're going to start seeing a pattern dealing with Yahweh and fire. You're going to see this over and over again. And there are times, even when it's one of the things where we go camping, right? We end up setting a fire, and sometimes we'll just sit there and watch the fire for hours. Okay? Now, the beautiful thing about a fire, the most beautiful thing about the fire to me is I ain't in it. All right? That is the most beautiful, absolute. There's nothing more beautiful about the fire than me not being in it. That is I can enjoy the fire from this side, and that seems to be the way I want to keep this going. I would like to enjoy the fire from a distance, all right? But it's a beautiful thing. But we see Yahweh has made his appearance in the fire. Go ahead.
And he looked, and behold, the bush burnt with fire, and the bush was not consumed. Continue.
Go ahead.
And Moshe said, I'll now turn aside and see this great sight, why the bush is not burnt.
So then we're looking at fire, but we're looking at a different kind of fire. Yahweh has shown himself in fire, but we're talking about fire that is not consuming the object that it is upon. So now you're talking about the spirit being able to be placed upon man, and if man walks accordingly, the fire doesn't consume him. Go ahead.
And when Yahweh saw that he turned aside to see, Elohim called unto him out of the midst of the bush and said, Moshe, Moshe. And he said, here am I.
So not only does Yahweh appear in this flame, this fire, but he speaks from this place of fire. Okay, so we're now seeing that we're getting a little bit of the connection, even though we haven't fully formed what that is. There's a connection there that we just are not aware of. Let's go to Exodus chapter 12. Exodus chapter 12, and let's start this at verse 1.
And Yahweh spake unto Moshe and Aaron in the land of Egypt, saying, This month shall be unto you the beginning of months. It shall be the first month of the year to you. Speak you unto all the congregation of Israel, saying, In the 10th day of this month they shall take to them every man a lamb, according to the house of their fathers, a lamb for an house.
Now, when you deal with holy days, now we know that there's a set of things that are coming, but Yahweh hasn't given at this point an official code or calendar, if you will. So he begins here with this Passover. All right, this is not the first of holy days, but it's the first one he given to us, you know, of dealing with without law, without any understanding. So the connection here is pretty strong because we know that this has great connection with Yahshua and the redemption that is going to happen there. So Yahweh is dealing with many generations of things right here. Go ahead.
And if the household be too little for the lamb, let him and his neighbor next unto his house take it according to the number of the souls. Every man according to his eating shall you make your count for the lamb. Your lamb shall be without blemish, a male of the first year. You shall take it out from the sheep or from the goats. And you shall keep it up until the 14th day of the same month. And the whole assembly of the congregation of Israel shall kill it in the evening. And they shall take of the blood, and strike it on the two side posts and on the upper door posts of the houses wherein they shall eat it. And they shall eat the flesh in that night, roast with fire and unleavened bread, and with bitter herbs they shall eat it.
All right, so when he has this lamb that is going to represent Yahshua here later on, this lamb must be roast with fire. And he gives, you know, specific instructions according to how this lamb must be cooked. All right. You shall eat the flesh in that night, roast with fire. Now, he appears unto man first in the fire. Then he explains his offering, his sacrifice for them, and it has to be roasted with fire. Go ahead.
Eaten out of it raw, nor sodden at all with water.
So you're not allowed to boil it. You're not allowed. So we say, well, cooking is cooking. No. This must be in the fire. It must touch the fire. The fire must touch it. You must not sodden. You must not at all boil this. Go ahead.
So no lamb stew?
Nope. None whatsoever. So you start to see some connections. So Yahweh appears in the fire. He has his first of all deliverances in dealing with the children of Israel when it comes down to this, and they must roast this with fire. All right, let's go to Leviticus chapter 1. Leviticus chapter 1, and I want you to start this at verse 1.
And Yahweh called unto Moshe and spake unto him out of the tabernacle of the congregation, saying, Speak unto the children of Israel, and say unto them, If any man of you bring an offering unto Yahweh, you shall bring your offering of the cattle, even of the herd, and of the flock. If his offering be a burnt sacrifice of the herd, let him offer a male without blemish. He shall offer it of his own voluntary will at the door of the tabernacle of the congregation before Yahweh.
Right. This is why, I don't go into all of those things to try to make anybody feel some kind of way about what they offer. Yahweh say it must be at your own will. If somebody got to beat you down to do it, then you shouldn't have done it. Go ahead.
And he shall put his hand upon the head of the burnt offering, and it shall be accepted for him to make an atonement for him. And he shall kill the bullock before Yahweh. And the priests, Aaron's sons, shall bring the blood and sprinkle the blood round about upon the altar that is by the door of the tabernacle of the congregation. And he shall flay the burnt offering and cut it into his pieces. And the sons of Aaron, the priests, shall put fire upon the altar and lay the wood in order upon the fire. And the priests, Aaron's sons, shall lay the parts, the head, and the fat in order upon the wood that is on the fire which is upon the altar. But his inwards and his legs shall he wash in water, and the priest shall burn all on the altar, to be a burnt sacrifice, an offering made by fire, of a sweet savor unto Yah.
Now wait a minute. All right. So you don't just have some things on there. All right. So for all practical purposes, let me put this in regular terms. When it comes down to Yahweh, if you do wrong, you're going to grill. If you do good, you're going to grill. If you sad, you're going to grill. If you happy, wait for it, you gonna grill. Understand something that this and this is one of our things. Nothing brings us together more. You light up a grill and people down the street come, hey, cousin P, bro, I'm not your cousin, bro. I'm not your cousin. Everybody's my cousin when the grill is lit. Okay, this is us now. We don't know that this has any kind of biblical connection. Now, there are certain times that people out having so much, fun. They out there talking. Brothers enjoying being on the grill that he burned up something. Okay, verse 9. But his inwards and his legs shall he wash with water, and the priest shall burn all on the altar to be a burnt sacrifice. Understand, Yahweh's portion is burnt all the way. And that's that part that some of us, people saying, oh, this one is burnt. I be standing in line. You know what? Let me get that one. Yeah, the char grill one. Yeah, the crunchy one. Let me get that one. Right. Wait a minute. The one that Yahweh did not burn his all the way through. And it's interesting because when we go to the restaurants, you don't know that you represent Yahweh. Because all them people out there getting their stuff medium rare, they getting their stuff, all of this, and then you say, let me get mine well done. And the people get mad at you. Well, you want me to burn it? You know what? Yeah. Yes. Somebody in here got to represent my Elohim. Burn that thing, bro. Burn it. Because he said you have to cook all the blood out of it. So while these people are eating rare like vampires, Yahweh said you can't do that. You need to cook all of that. So whether we know it or not, if Yahweh's portion is the burnt portion, and you understand when we go to a restaurant, they have said, and I've heard other people say the same thing has been said to them. I've had it said to me many a times that whenever we ask for it well done, they saying, oh, you burning it. Okay, Yahweh asked you to represent for him. So when it's your time to represent, do you go in and you say, you know what, since everybody else getting theirs, medium rare, I just, because they have convinced themselves, they said, well, it's juice. See, that's savory. Nah, man, that's blood. That's not fully cooked. Okay? So here it is, just by wanting our stuff done that way, we are now standing in a sea of heathens, in a restaurant of heathens, and you are Yahweh's representative just by asking them to burn it. Somebody got to eat his portion. Go ahead.
You was touching on this earlier, it's like moth to a flame. Anytime the grill light up, we don't care what is going on. Our people will show me, y'all selling plates?
Mm-hmm.
Just the grill. And to be honest, I ain't never seen nobody from any other nation show up asking if we selling plates when the grill fired.
Hey man, it is totally different with us. And understand now, as we're going through all of these things, this is the job of the priest. So this is a priestly job that they're dealing with these offerings, and we don't even see the gravitational pull of why it's there. We just looked at, this is a manly thing. No, this is much deeper than a manly thing. Go ahead.
And if his offering be of the flocks, namely of the sheep or of the goats, for a burnt sacrifice, he shall bring it a male without blemish. And he shall kill it on the side of the altar northward before Yahweh. And the priest, Aaron's son, shall sprinkle his blood round about upon the altar. And he shall cut it into his pieces with his head and his fat. And the priest shall lay them in order on the wood that is on the fire which is upon the altar. But he shall wash the inwards and the legs with water. And the priest shall bring it all and burn it upon the altar. It is a burnt sacrifice, an offering made by fire, of a sweet savor unto Yahweh.
Wait a minute, a sweet savor, sweet smell, right? It is pleasing unto Yahweh. That's why it's pleasing unto us. You don't know why you're attracted to that. We can walk out the door, be on the way to somewhere else, and we'll stop like a dog. Brother, you smell that? Somebody on the grill. And why do we have to acknowledge that? Like you a grown man, like you didn't smell the same thing I smell. But why do we feel the need to acknowledge each other? You smell it? It ain't just me, right? You smell the grill? Okay, well now we can go ahead and go where we were going. But I just need to acknowledge that I did smell something on the grill. Okay, keep reading.
And if the burnt sacrifice for his offering to Yahweh be of fowls, then he shall bring his offering of turtle doves or of young pigeons.
Wait a minute now. See, now we're about to get into the yard bird. All right? Now we got the main thing we putting on this thing is the yard. Cause hey, we ain't got no cattle no more. We ain't got one of those. But let me tell you something. We can get that yard bird pretty quick. Go ahead.
And the priest shall bring it onto the altar and wring off his head and burn it on the altar. And the blood thereof shall be wrung out at the side of the altar. And he shall pluck away his crop with his feathers and cast it beside the altar on the east part by the place of the ashes. And he shall cleave it with the wings thereof, but shall not divide it asunder. And the priest shall burn it upon the altar, upon the wood that is upon the fire. It is a burnt sacrifice, an offering made by fire of a sweet savor unto Yahweh.
All right. So we have some reasoning behind why there is some connection. Jump to chapter 2. Leviticus chapter 2 and start that at verse 1.
And when any will offer a meat offering unto Yahweh, his offering shall be of fine flour, and he shall pour oil upon it and put frankincense thereon.
Now, this is talking about grain offering. When it says meat is just food. So we would take meat and think that automatically is talking about flesh. That is not exactly what that means. Go ahead.
And he shall bring it to Aaron's sons the priests, and he shall take thereout his handful of the flour thereof, and of the oil thereof, with all the frankincense thereof, and the priest shall burn the memorial of it upon the altar, to be an offering made by fire of a sweet savor unto Yahweh. And the remnant of the meat offering shall be Aaron's and his sons. It is a thing most holy of the offerings of Yahweh made by fire. And if you bring an oblation of a meat offering baken in the oven, it shall be unleavened cakes of fine flour mingled with oil, or unleavened wafers anointed with oil. And if your oblation be a meat offering baken in a pan, it shall be of fine flour unleavened mingled with oil. You shall part it in pieces and pour oil thereon. It is a meat offering. And if your oblation be a meat offering baken in the frying pan, it shall be made of fine flour with oil. And you shall bring the meat offering that is made of these things unto Yahweh, and when it is presented unto the priest, he shall bring it unto the altar. And the priest shall take from the meat offering a memorial thereof, and shall burn it upon the altar. It is an offering made by fire of a sweet savor unto Yahweh.
And the priest shall take from the meat offering a memorial thereof, and shall burn it upon the altar. It is an offering made by Yahweh of a sweet savor. Understand, the things that belong to Yahweh, we can't consume that. He consumes that. And we're going to get into how he does consume those things. Let's go to chapter 4, Leviticus chapter 4.
You know, when you're talking about the meat versus flesh, we see here that anything flesh goes directly on the grill. Anything meat, what they refer to as meat, you're putting it in the frying pan. You can bake it in an oven or anything else, but to give Yahweh his portion, it still has to go on the altar in the fire. Where are we on?
Leviticus 4, and start out at verse 1.
And Yahweh spake unto Moshe, saying, Speak unto the children of Israel, saying, If a soul shall sin through ignorance against any of the commandments of Yahweh, concerning things which ought not to be done, and shall do against any of them, if the priest that is anointed do sin according to the sin of the people, then let him bring for his sin, which he has sinned, a young bullock without blemish, unto Yahweh for a sin offering. And he shall bring the bullock unto the door of the tabernacle of the congregation before Yahweh, and shall lay his hand upon the bullock's head, and kill the bullock before Yahweh. And the priest that is anointed shall take of the bullock's blood, and bring it to the tabernacle of the congregation. And the priest shall dip his finger in the blood, and sprinkle of the blood 7 times before Yahweh, before the veil of the sanctuary. And the priest shall put some of the blood upon the horns of the altar of sweet incense before Yahweh, which is in the tabernacle of the congregation, and shall pour all the blood of the bullock at the bottom of the altar of the burnt offering, which is at the door of the tabernacle of the congregation. And he shall take off from it all the fat of the bullock for the sin offering, the fat that covers the inwards, and all the fat that is upon the inwards, and the 2 kidneys, and the fat that is upon them, which is by the flanks, and the caul above the liver, with the kidneys, it shall he take away. As it was taken off from the bullock of the sacrifices of peace offerings, and the priest shall burn them upon the altar of burnt offering.
So then certain portions are taken away and burned thoroughly. Now, this is, a lot of times you're going to find the part where people are cooking, but these are prepared already. All right? Now, you got to understand that there's a real bloody nature to this job, because we're doing that easy part. Well, we get the chicken from Kroger. You know what I'm saying? We get it. It's in the pack. But understand that there's that part where when you got this animal, all right, see, this is the part where you start, this is where you separate the men from the women most of the time right here. Because this what it be like, you know what, no, I'm not. You about to cut that thing head off? You about to drain the blood? I'll be in the kitchen. Go tell me when you're done. So this is where I get now. people who in the country, hey, these folks done seen their grandmamas, do that like it ain't nothing. But after time is gone, we've gotten away from, all of these things. So there is a portion where it's a real ugly job. Why we like fast food? Because it's fast. You think about how much time and preparation. We read where it says, go dress that lamb. Go dress the goat. Do you know how much preparation is in going to get a goat, killing it, draining the blood, then turn around and cooking? We don't get that. So you can't be squeamish when it comes down to this portion. Let's go to Exodus chapter 32.
Brother, just going to get a goat is an ordeal because they hard-headed.
The goat might be on top of your house. That goat know you coming in. Nah, brother. Nah, brother. Not today. Not today, brother. You're going to have to get somebody else. No, man, I'm telling you, we chose you. No, not today. Well, you're going to have to catch me. The goat might be 4 houses down. Folk got to call you. Hey, man, can you come get your goat? Let's go. We'll start this. Go ahead and start at verse 1.
And when the people saw that Moshe delayed to come down out of the mount, the people gathered themselves together unto Aaron and said unto him, Up, make us gods, which shall go before us. For as for this Moshe, the man that brought us up out of the land of Egypt, we know not what has become of him. And Aaron said unto them, Break off the golden earrings, which are in the ears of your wives, of your sons, and of your daughters, and bring them unto me. And all the people brake off the golden earrings which were in their ears, and brought them unto Aaron. And he received them at their hand, and fashioned it with a graving tool, after he had made it a molten calf. And they said, These be your gods, O Israel, which brought you up out of the land of Egypt. And when Aaron saw it, he built an altar before it. And Aaron made proclamation and said, Tomorrow is a feast to Yahweh.
Now, tomorrow is a feast to Yahweh. Right after they've made some gods of Egypt. Go ahead.
My brother, I just wanted to touch on something here, right? It says, he said, break off the earrings which are in the ears of your wives, your sons, and of your daughters. He covered everybody, right? Because I heard one preacher talk about, take the Ishmaelite earrings out your ears. Get the Ishmaelite. These are Hebrew Israelites, right?
Right.
Okay, just making sure. Verse 32 and verse 6. And they rose up early on the morrow, and offered burnt offerings and brought peace offerings. And the people sat down to eat and to drink, and rose up to play. And Yahweh said unto Moshe, Go, get you down, for your people, which you brought up out of the land of Egypt, have corrupted themselves. They have turned aside quickly out of the way which I commanded them. They have made them a molten calf, and have worshipped it, and have sacrificed thereunto, and said, These be your gods, O Israel, which have brought you up out of the land of Egypt.
Now, Yahweh could have stopped this process at any time, but he did not. Go ahead.
And Yahweh said unto Moshe, I've seen this people, and behold, it is a stiff-necked people. Now therefore let me alone, that my wrath may wax hot against them, and that I may consume them, and I'll make of you a great nation. And Moshe besought Yahweh his Elohim, and said, Yahweh, why does your wrath wax hot against your people, which you have brought forth out of the land of Egypt with great power and with a mighty hand? Wherefore should the Egyptians speak and say, For mischief did he bring them out, to slay them in the mountains, and to consume them from the face of the earth? Turn from your fierce wrath, and repent of this evil against your people. Remember Abraham, Esau, and Israel, your servants, to whom you sweareth by your own self, and said unto them, I'll multiply your seed as the stars of heaven, and all this land that I have spoken of will I give unto your seed, and they shall inherit it forever. And Yahweh repented of the evil which he thought to do unto his people.
Now, Yahweh was going to destroy everything, all right? He was absolutely done with Israel, okay? Go ahead.
And Moshe turned and went down from the mount, and the 2 tables of the testimony were in his hand. The tables were written on both their sides. On the one side and on the other were they written.
Now, you watching a real Holy Family situation right here. All right? Because you're about to look at several levels of things. And if you pay attention, you done seen this in your living room. Keep reading.
And the tables were the work of Elohim, and the writing was the writing of Elohim, graven upon the tables. And when Yahshua heard the noise of the people as they shouted, he said unto Moshe, There's a noise of war in the camp. And he said, It is not the voice of them that shout for mastery, neither is it the voice of them that cry for being overcome, but the noise of them that sing do I hear. And it came to pass, as soon as he came near unto the camp, that he saw the calf and the dancing, and Moshe's anger waxed hot, and he cast the tables out of his hands and brake them beneath the mount.
Now, wait a minute. Now, this is the same one who spoke to Yahweh and asked Yahweh to repent of his anger. Then he got down there, got angry, and started throwing stuff at the ground. All right, let me show you. One of them was your mama, the other one was your daddy. Now, the daddy was finna come home and kill you. The mama said, please save my baby. Don't kill my baby. Then the mama got over there, I'm going to beat the skin off you. Why? Because I just had to save you from your daddy. This whooping I'm going to give you ain't nothing like the whooping that your daddy was going to give you because he was going to kill you. You done seen this one in your living room. You didn't know what you were looking at, but you done seen this one in your living room. So you didn't know that your mama pulled your daddy aside. Baby, let me talk to you. Don't kill him. Baby, please, don't kill him. He's still a good boy. He just confused it. Don't kill him. Don't kill. Now, after she get through pleading for you, because understand something now, he gonna make her deal with a little bit because she's standing in the breach for you. So she got to give you a little something. She can't just let you go. You got to come. You got to get a little bit of this. Go ahead.
And then hearing about a situation and then walking up on it is 2 different things.
You got it. You got it. So now the anger done shot up there. Yahweh told me this is what y'all were doing. Go ahead.
And he took the calf which they had made and burned it in the fire and ground it to powder and strawed it upon the water and made the children of Israel drink
All
of
right,
it.
now come on now. He getting into, oh, no. This what you going to do? Now you take, it take work to do this. Break them, grind it to powder, put it in the water, now drink it. Go ahead.
And Moshe said unto Aaron, What did this people unto you, that you have brought so great a sin upon them? And Aaron said, Let not the anger of my master wax hot. You know the people, that they're set on mischief. For they said unto me, Make us gods, which should go before us. For as for this Moshe, the man that brought us up out of the land of Egypt, we know not what has become of him. And I said unto them, Whosoever has any gold, let him break it off. So they gave it me. Then I cast it into the fire, and there came out this calf.
Now, of course, it just came out. All right. Now, but the part that you got to get on this go round is that they put it in the fire. Wait a minute. The very first thing that Yahweh spoke to man out of, all right, that he's dealing with them out of the midst of this fire. He says, okay, if you're going to offer something to me, it has to be a fire. When people say, you have these individuals that say, well, you know what, I won't eat anything, on the Sabbath. I won't cook. They don't understand that bread is made hot every Sabbath day in that temple. They don't understand that you can't have a holy day with cold cuts. It has to abide the fire. I tell all my vegetarian friends, you better burn that vegetable. All right? You better, there's some fire got to come somewhere. All right? You are missing the essence of your Elohim. Go ahead.
Even when you look at like what you're talking about with the fire for the burnt offering, verses when he said don't kindle a fire on the Shabbat, they're now using it to make
something.
an idol.
Exactly what he did. To make anything. Because you burn it, you're making the fuel for work. But you have to understand, what else does that fire do? That fire forms. Wait a minute. So the same fire that Elohim speaks out of is the same fire that you can form something with. So you need to use the essence of him to even make the idol. So you got to use him to make a fake image of him. So this fire then has a purpose, naturally and spiritually. Because spiritually, that fire is what makes us the people that he wants us to be. See, there's a part of who we were born because of the gene pool of our parents. And then there's the fire of what we go through in life. That ultimately forms you. The same thing that formed that idol in the fire, in turn, also forms you. Go ahead.
And when Moshe saw that the people were naked, for Aaron had made them naked unto their shame among their enemies, then Moshe stood in the gate of the camp and said, who is on Yahweh's side? Let him come unto me. And all the sons of Levi gathered themselves together unto him.
Now, wait a minute. So there's a great sin that has happened. He said, who is on my side, right? Levi gathered. Now, wait a minute. The whole part of the offering, the whole part about sacrifice is it's an ugly, bloody job, right? Now, why did he choose Levi? This is a bloody job. All right. He says, who is on Yahweh's side? Keep reading.
And he said unto them, thus says Yahweh Elohim of Israel, put every man his sword by his side, and go in and out from gate to gate throughout the camp, and slay every man his brother.
Yeah, go give me a sacrifice.
And every man his companion, and every man his neighbor. And the children of Levi did according to the word of Moshe, and there fell of the people that day about 3,000 men.
Right. The same cutting that I'm going to have you do at the altar, you finna earn it right now. So they had to earn it. This is a bloody job. And the people who was about that business, because you have some people that'll stand at the grill. Them ain't the same people that be like, well, no, just bring me the calf. I don't want to cut the blood and be pulling, separating organs and stuff. No. Yahweh said, who about this business? Levi stepped up. So now the same slaying and cutting that he did on his own brethren, now he has to do all of that to make sacrifice for them same people. Go ahead.
For Moshe had said, consecrate yourselves today to Yahweh, even every man upon his son and upon his brother, that he may bestow upon you a blessing this day. And it came to pass on the morrow that Moshe said unto the people, you have sinned a great sin, and now I'll go up unto Yahweh. Peradventure I shall make an atonement for your sin.
All right. Let's go to Deuteronomy chapter 5. Deuteronomy chapter 5 and started at verse 1.
And Moshe called all Israel and said unto them, hear, O Israel, the statutes and judgments which I speak in your ears this day, that you may learn them and keep them and do them. Yahweh our Elohim made a covenant with us in Horeb. Yahweh made not this covenant with our fathers, but with us, even us, who are all of us here alive this day. Yahweh talked with you face to face in the mount out of the midst of the fire.
Wait a minute. Yahweh talked with you face to face in the mount out of the midst of the fire. Wait a minute. Same according to the first conversation here. Go ahead.
I stood between you and Yahweh at that time to show you the word of Yahweh, for you were afraid by reason of the fire and went not up into the mount, saying, I am Yahweh your Elohim, which brought you out of the land of Egypt from the house of bondage. You shall have none other gods before me. You shall not make you any graven image or any likeness of anything that is in the heaven above, or that is in the earth beneath, or that is in the waters beneath the earth.
Now, he wants to make sure that we remember these things, and he speaks them out of the fire so you can understand the power of what he's dealing with here. Go ahead.
You shall not bow down yourselves unto them, nor serve them. For I, Yahweh your Elohim, am a jealous El, visiting the lawlessness of the fathers upon the children unto the third and fourth generation of them that hate me, and showing mercy unto thousands of them that love me and keep my commandments. You shall not take the name of Yahweh your Elohim in vain, for Yahweh will not hold him guiltless that takes his name in vain.
Right. So we had a long period where it wasn't possible for us to use Yahweh's name in vain because we didn't know what it was. Why? They took it all out. They wanted to make sure that we didn't know. They put this Lord in here so much that people actually think that that's his name. But now you have people using his name in vain in a whole different way. Because now all of a sudden, because so many teachings have gone forth, now these other people who worship on other days, all of a sudden, the Sunday worshiper is all of a sudden wants to use the name of Yahweh and Yahshua. Now we got a problem. But you worshiping on Sunday though. See, you want to call on his name, but then not do the very things that were spoken out of the fire. Which means you purchasing fire to yourself. Go ahead.
Keep the Sabbath day to sanctify it, as Yahweh your Elohim has commanded you. 6 days you shall labor and do all your work. But the seventh day is the Shabbat of Yahweh your Elohim. In it you shall not do any work. You, nor your son, nor your daughter, nor your manservant, nor your maidservant, nor your ox, nor your ass, nor any of your cattle, nor your stranger that is within your gates, that your manservant and your maidservant may rest as well as you. And remember that you was a servant in the land of Egypt, and that Yahweh your Elohim brought you out thence through a mighty hand and by a stretched out arm. Therefore Yahweh your Elohim commanded you to keep the Shabbat day. Honor your father and your mother, as Yahweh your Elohim has commanded you.
All right. So he's going through all of these things. You should not kill. You should not commit adultery. You should not steal. You should not bear false witness against your neighbor. Neither shall you desire your neighbor's wife. Neither shall you covet your neighbor's house, his field, his manservant, his maidservant, his ox or his ass, or anything that is your neighbor's. Read verse 22.
These words Yahweh spake unto all your assembly in the mount, out of the midst of the fire.
He spoke all of this out of the midst of the fire and
of the cloud and of the thick darkness.
Wait a minute. There are times, you know, when I actually have pictures. Well, a brother is at the grill, but you can't really see that there's a brother at the grill because the smoke covers the entire plate. You see like one hand. Wait a minute. Yahweh not only speaks out of the midst of the fire, but the smoke is a part of it too. See, there's a part when they said the Spirit filled the room and it was smoke. When the Spirit filled the room. Keep reading.
With a great voice, and he added no more. And he wrote them in 2 tables of stone and delivered them unto me. And it came to pass, when you heard the voice out of the midst of the darkness, for the mountain did burn with fire, that you came near unto me, even all the heads of your tribes and your elders. And you said, Behold, Yahweh Elohim has showed us his glory and his greatness.
He has showed us his glory and his greatness. Let's go to Exodus chapter 13. Exodus 13, and let's start at verse 17.
And it came to pass, when Pharaoh had let the people go, that Elohim led them not through the way of the land of the Philistines, although that was near. For Elohim said, Lest peradventure the people repent when they see war, and they return to Egypt.
So he knew they weren't ready for that. See, sometimes we get to the point where we think we're ready for everything. He said, look, this is a shorter path. And, you know, a lot of times we say, well, this is the quickest way. No, you ain't ready for what you're going to encounter on that way. See, y'all just freshly getting out of bondage. If you see war, y'all ain't ready for that yet. So sometimes when Yahweh directs our path, we get angry at him because we say the path was too long. I'm gonna let that marinate for a minute. See, sometimes you got to let the chicken soak, or else all the flavor don't get in there. You got to let that soak for a minute. See, so we get angry, and especially when we talk to somebody else. Wait a minute, you mean you just made one left and got here? Then we get mad, and we think Yahweh done led us wrong. No, he led you the way for your heart. He led you in the way that he didn't have to destroy you. He could have made you take that quick left and then he got to kill you. He led you in the way so that he can keep you alive. But here we go, mad. I mean, we surely could have reached the promised land quicker. I mean, surely, Yahweh, I can see the Mount Zion right there. It's right there, Yahweh. Why are we turning left? Because I'm about to kill you if we go right. We're going to get there too fast. See, your inside need to be ready for what your outside gonna encounter. So we're gonna take the scenic route. Go ahead.
But Elohim led the people about through the way of the wilderness of the Red Sea, and the children of Israel went up harnessed out of the land of Egypt.
Now you know they don't know where they're going, but they know this can't be the right way. Why we keep going through all these bushes? Clearly we can see that stuff over there at the top of that hill. But now this helps them get a little disgruntled. Go ahead.
And Moshe took the bones of Yosef with him, for he had straitly sworn the children of Israel, saying, Elohim will surely visit you, and you shall carry up my bones away hence with you. And they took their journey from Succoth, and encamped in Etham, in the edge of the wilderness. And Yahweh went before them by day in a pillar of cloud to lead them the way, and by night in a pillar of fire to give them light to go by day and night. He took not away the pillar of the cloud by day, nor the pillar of fire by night from before the people.
Wait a minute. So then in this, there is smoke and fire amongst them constantly. It not only, it directs them, it leads them. They know when to move, when the cloud moves. When the smoke start moving, they know. Hey, I think it's time for us to pack up. What? You don't see that thing start moving? Now they know. All right, it's time to move. So this is not just something. This is now comforting to people, especially a group of people who have been subjected to Pharaoh and the mistreatments of Egypt. To have this fire and this smoke amongst them constantly, and then to have it move when they are to move. Oh, that's awfully comforting. Okay? So we have to deal with that.
It's interesting you use the word comforting, because the fire can be just that in times. Like you said, if you're just sitting there and you kind of just float away in it, there's a comfort in that, and there's that comfort of warmth that it brings as well.
Right. Now, when you say float away in it, not
in it.
All right, I
lose
mentally
yourself looking at the flame.
There you go, Jay. Okay, yeah. Because like I said, my best place is outside of it. But yeah, you are absolutely right. Let me tell you something, man. I was flipping through the channels, and you know they got one of them channels, one of them soundscapes, and just all of a sudden, boom, they got a fire channel. And so it just makes all of the whole screen, your TV will be a fire, and it's playing all the crackling of a fire. So that you can just have that on your television if you want to just look at that, that visual and hear what that sounds like. Exodus chapter 19. And let's start at verse 14.
And Moshe went down from the mount unto the people, and sanctified the people, and they washed their clothes. And he said unto the people, Be ready against the third day, come not at your wives. And it came to pass on the third day in the morning, that there were thunders and lightnings, and a thick cloud upon the mount.
And a thick cloud upon the mount. Go ahead.
And the voice of the trumpet exceeding loud, so that all the people that was in the camp trembled. And Moshe brought forth the people out of the camp to meet with Elohim.
Now they're coming out of the camp to meet with Elohim. So keep reading. Let's see what they're going to run into when they meet with Elohim. Go ahead.
And they stood at the nether part of the mount. And Mount Sinai was altogether on a smoke, because Yahweh descended upon it in fire.
Wait a minute. He descended upon it in fire, and it was altogether on a smoke. Go ahead.
And the smoke thereof ascended as the smoke of a furnace, and the whole mount quaked greatly.
So Yahweh is presenting himself to Israel in smoke and fire. Go ahead.
And when the voice of the trumpet sounded long, and waxed louder and louder, Moshe and Elohim answered him by a voice. Moshe spake, pardon me, and Elohim answered him by a voice. And Yahweh came down upon Mount Sinai, on the top of the mount. And Yahweh called Moshe up to the top of the mount, and Moshe went up.
Now, this is where you start seeing that their boundaries. All right. Now, you're talking about a smoke and a fire, and these are the things that the people, shied away from. They didn't want no parts of that. It's quaking greatly. You got fire and thick smoke. Very few people run into thick smoke. When they ask kids when they little, they say, what you want to be? And some of the kids say, I want to be a fireman. And as a little kid, I know, hell no. I'm not running into no thick darkness. Let me tell you something, brother. I run away from thick darkness and clouds. You understand? I was not running into it. I'm running out of it. That was never my choice. I said, man, y'all some different kind of kids. The fire engine didn't do that to me. Go ahead.
And Yahweh said unto Moshe, Go down, charge the people, lest they break through unto Yahweh to gaze, and many of them perish.
Well, wait a minute. So there's a mount that's on fire. And he said, look, if they come up here now, they're going to die. So now we have a boundary here. Okay. You got several levels. You got certain little things that can be done. This is that part where a man has boundaries around his grill. See, there's levels. Now you can't come up here on this grill right here. No. See, Yahweh let Moshe come up to this fire. Now you can go down there and be at the edge of the fire. You wait until the chicken come out. Don't come over here. So that there's boundaries around this one. You got to have a certain level of authority to get to this. You want to see a fight? Go somewhere and get too close to somebody's grill and watch how they act. Watch how they act. See, we don't even think that there's a connection there between us and our Elohim. We don't even know what that is. But we're exercising all in it without any knowledge of what that is. And why is it stronger with us than with any other people? Keep going.
And let the priests also, which come near to Yahweh, sanctify themselves, lest Yahweh break forth upon them.
Now, so these priests can come near. They just need to be sanctified. But everybody can't come near this fire and this smoke. Go ahead.
And Moshe said unto Yahweh, The people cannot come up to Mount Sinai, for you charged us, saying, Set bounds about the mount and sanctify it. And Yahweh said unto him, Away, get you down, and you shall come up, you and Aaron with you. But let not the priests and the people break through to come up unto Yahweh, lest he break forth upon them. So Moshe went down unto the people and spake unto them.
All right. So then we went through here. We covered that the items are formed in that fire because of what happened with those golden earrings. But there's something else that we need to get. Let's go to Exodus chapter 24. Exodus 24 and start at verse 13.
And Moshe rose up, and his minister Yahshua. And Moshe went up into the mount of Elohim. And he said unto the elders, Tarry you here for us, until we come again unto you. And, behold, Aaron and her are with you. If any man have any matters to do, let him come unto them. And Moshe went up into the mount, and a cloud covered the mount. And the glory of Yahweh abode upon Mount Sinai, and the cloud covered it 6 days. And the seventh day he called unto Moshe out of the midst of the cloud. And the sight of the glory of Yahweh was like devouring fire on the top of the mount in the eyes of the children of Israel. And Moshe went into the midst of the cloud, and gat him up into the mount. And Moshe was in the mount 40 days and 40 nights.
Okay, so in verse 17, it says, and the sight of the glory of Yahweh was like devouring fire on top of the mount in the eyes of the children of Israel. So you have this fire, and we have to think about the times of there are instances where something is dealt with, and is dealt with the fire. The very fire that Yahweh spoke, the very first, even in how he deals going on, you end up running into this fire. Let's go to Revelation chapter 20. You know, the only thing I really considered about the lake of fire was that I didn't want to be in it. But you don't really consider that this is a part of Yahweh. Now, this starts to get pretty interesting, because if this is all of his speaking, and he speaks out of the fire, if we decide that we don't want to listen to him, we got to deal with the fire in which he spoke out of. That is quite interesting. Revelation chapter 20, and let's start that at verse 1.
And I saw an angel come down from heaven, having the key of the bottomless pit and a great chain in his hand. And he laid hold on the dragon, that old serpent, which is the devil and Satan, and bound him 1,000 years, and cast him into the bottomless pit, and shut him up, and set a seal upon him, that he should deceive the nations no more, till the 1,000 years should be fulfilled, and after that he must be loosed a little season. And I saw thrones, and they sat upon them, and judgment was given unto them. And I saw the souls of them that were beheaded for the witness of Yahshua, and for the word of Elohim, and which had not worshipped the beast, neither his image, neither had received his mark upon their foreheads or in their hands, and they lived and reigned with Yahshua 1,000 years. But the rest of the dead lived not again until the 1,000 years were finished. This is the first resurrection.
All right, so then there is this point in time where if these individuals do not make that first resurrection, they won't even know that it happened. They won't be aware that the Mashiach had been on the earth for 1,000 years. Go ahead.
Blessed and holy is he that has part in the first resurrection. On such the second death has no power. But they shall be priests of Elohim and of Yahshua, and shall reign with him 1,000 years. And when the 1,000 years are expired, Satan shall be loosed out of his prison, and shall go out to deceive the nations which are in the four quarters of the earth, Gog and Magog, to gather them together to battle, the number of whom is as the sand of the sea. And they went up on the breadth of the earth, and compassed the camp of the saints about, and the beloved city. And fire came down from Elohim out of heaven, and devoured them.
Now, fire came down from Elohim out of heaven and devoured them. So man then understands the fire of Elohim. So much, in fact, when Job was being tested and they said the fire of Elohim came and destroyed, these individuals. But we know that, wait a minute, Lucifer was able to command this power because he was doing a job for Elohim. So we then have this devouring fire. See, one way or another, the adversary, the devil, still work for Yahweh. Now, he may be just as disobedient as he is in certain things, but when it came down to the situation of Job, he had a job for him to do. Well, I tell you what, I know you do what you do. Have you considered my servant? Now, I'm going to give you a little leeway. I'm going to move back the hedge. But you can't go past what I'm telling you. So even the adversary still works for Yahweh. Keep going.
And the devil that deceived them was cast into the lake of fire and brimstone, where the beast and the false prophet are, and shall be tormented day and night forever and ever. And I saw a great white throne, and him that sat on it, from whose face the earth and the heaven fled away, and there was found no place for them.
All right, so we then see that devouring fire. Let's go to Judges chapter 6. Judges chapter 6, and let's start that at verse 11.
And there came an angel of Yahweh, and sat under an oak which was in Ophrah, that pertained unto Joash the Abiezrite. And his son Gideon threshed wheat by the winepress to hide it from the Midianites. And the angel of Yahweh appeared unto him, and said unto him, Yahweh is with you, you mighty man of valor. And Gideon said unto him, Oh, my Adonai, if Yahweh be with us, why then is all this befallen us? And where be all his miracles which our fathers told us of, saying, Did not Yahweh bring us out from Egypt? But now Yahweh has forsaken us, and delivered us into the hands of the Midianites. And Yahweh looked upon him, and said, Go in this your might, and you shall save Israel from the hand of the Midianites. Have not I sent you? And he said unto him, Oh, my Adonai, wherewith shall I save Israel? Behold, my family is poor in Manasseh, and I am the least in my father's house.
These are the kind of odds that Yahweh loves. See, he picked a great man, and then everybody think that the man was so great that he did it. So Yahweh pick a man that people say, ain't no way, ain't nobody gonna listen to him. Ain't nobody gonna listen to him. Then they be like, man, somehow people listen to him. Yahweh loved those odds. Man, come on, man, he the poorest one. He ain't even the muscle bound one in the family. They got all these dudes over here with muscles. Ain't nobody gonna listen to him. Yahweh like, yeah, I know. Yeah, that's the one I want. I want the one ain't nobody gonna listen to. I want the one that ain't nobody afraid of. Give me that one. Because then when I do it with that one, you're gonna know I did it. Go ahead.
And Yahweh said unto him, Surely I'll be with you, and you shall smite the Midianites as one man. And he said unto him, If now I have found grace in your sight, then show me a sign that you talketh with me. Depart not hence, I pray you, until I come unto you and bring forth my present and set it before you. And he said, I'll tarry until you come. And Gideon went in and made ready a kid and unleavened cakes of an ephah of flour. The flesh he put in a basket, and he put the broth in a pot and brought it out unto him under the yoke and presented it. And the angel of Elohim said unto him, Take the flesh and the unleavened cakes and lay them upon this rock and pour out the broth. And he did so.
Right. Pour out the broth. Well, now, wait a minute now. Now, offering can be boiled. Hey, wait a minute. You got to pour out the broth. Pour that out. It shall not be sodden at all with water. Pour that out. All right? But take this stuff right here and put it on the rock. What do you think the altar is made of? Stone. So put this on the stone. Go ahead.
Then the angel of Yahweh put forth the end of the staff that was in his hand, and touched the flesh and the unleavened cakes, and there rose up fire out of the rock, and consumed the flesh and the unleavened cakes.
Consumed the flesh and the unleavened cakes. That was representative of Yahweh's devouring fire consuming from off the altar. He basically made an altar of this stone and then consumed it from the stone. It says if you're going to make an altar of stone, make sure that your tool don't come near it. So he is this consuming fire, the same fire spiritually that forms us. We then have the fire of this offering consumed just as Yahweh's part is wholly burnt. Go ahead.
Then the angel of Yahweh departed out of his sight. And when Gideon perceived that he was an angel of Yahweh, Gideon said, Alas, O Adonai, for because I have seen an angel of Yahweh face to face. And Yahweh said unto him, Peace be unto you, fear not, you shall not die. Then Gideon built an altar there unto Yahweh, and called it Yahweh Shalom. Unto this day it is yet an Ophrah of the Abiezrites. And it came to pass the same night that Yahweh said unto him, Take your father's young bullock, even the second bullock of 7 years old, and throw down the altar of Baal that your father has, and cut down the grove that is by it. And build an altar unto Yahweh Elohim upon the top of this rock.
Build you an altar unto Yahweh upon the top of this rock. So we see then when he was consuming that off of that rock, understand what he made that rock. Go ahead.
In the ordered place, and take the second bullock, and offer a burnt sacrifice with the wood of the grove, which you shall cut down. Then Gideon took 10 men of his servants, and did as Yahweh had said unto him. And so it was, because he feared his father's household and the men of the city, that he could not do it by day, that he did it by night.
Now, remember, as we were going through other things, there were, the offering was then burnt upon the wood. So you have a lot of people that's real serious about, what they cook with. You have some people that say, look at man, I don't cook with no charcoal. You got certain people that they're serious about their wood when it come down to cooking. Now, when you deal with this, the wood he wanted to use, first of all, he throws down their altar, right? But then they are also worshiping the groves. These are trees. So he takes the trees that they're worshiping and use it for his fire. So then Yahweh then consumes their gods. He says when they have a graven image, he says don't even desire the gold or the silver that's on it when it's formed into an idol. Cast it into the fire. What? Let Yahweh devour it. Go ahead.
Elder, when you look at this, recently we read before where it says, honor thy father and mother, right? But he says, throw down the altar of Baal that your father has. The bullock he using is his daddy's own.
Right.
So at this point, what, is he not honoring his father and mother? His father and his mother? Yahweh said, do this. This goes against what your daddy said, and I'm going to do what Yahweh said.
Well, what did Yahshua say? Who is my mother and my father? Which mom and daddy did you honor? I'm sure almost all of us, when we got in this word, heard,
I mean, your God don't like mothers? Well, what's wrong with Mother's Day? Well, your God don't like mothers? Your God is motherless.
well, hey, you have to be careful with saying that, what you just said. You know how many people done heard that and they said, well, if God said honor your mother and your father, I mean, this is Mother's Day. Surely you gonna honor your mother on Mother's Day. So now the scripture then is used to push you into pagan worship. And if you ain't got yourself together, it's gonna pull you right in there. Go ahead.
And when the men of the city arose early in the morning, behold, the altar of Baal was cast down, and the grove was cut down that was by it, and the second bullock was offered upon the altar that was built. And they said one to another, who has done this thing? And when they inquired and asked, they said, Gideon, the son of Joash, has done this thing.
So then this was a very, very difficult thing to follow. See, there's sometimes that Yahweh will lead you to do something. And you know what's funny? We will think that if it's difficult, Yahweh didn't ask me to do it. We think that if it's easy to accomplish, then that's the thing that Yahweh wants us to do. This is the thing that he has asked him to do, that he has told him to do, and it is extremely difficult. So much, in fact, that he was scared to do it by day. Yahweh didn't just ask, he said, no, go in there, and I need you to go in with power. Now go in and cut down the trees. Now I need you to burn those trees. He didn't say set a fire with any of the wood that you found. No. I need you to set a fire with that wood. That wood right there. The one they're worshiping. Now I need you to go take this, kill it. Hey, he's absolutely afraid. So if you believe that Yahweh is not going to lead you to do something that is going to be uncomfortable, you don't know your Elohim at all. Go ahead.
Then the men of the city said unto Joash, bring out your son, that he might die, because he has cast down the altar of Baal, and because he has cut down the grove that was by it. And Joash said unto all that stood against him, will you plead for Baal? Will you save him? He that will plead for him, let him be put to death while he is yet mourning. While it is yet morning. If he be a god, let him plead for himself.
If he be a god, let him plead for himself. Go ahead.
Because one has cast down his altar. Therefore, on that day, he called him Jerubbaal, saying, let Baal plead against him, because he has thrown down his altar.
All right. So then we have that there. Now, some may say that when we go through all of these things, or even connecting, the way in which people deal with this grill, and the way you find all of these ordinances about the altar, some people may get a little thrown off by that. They said, well, in my house, it was, my mama was always the one on the grill. It wasn't my father. But we have to understand, if they are sons of the priesthood, then there must be daughters of the priesthood. There must be daughters who have sat around and watched their fathers and their fathers' fathers operate in this manner. So they already got a love for it. Let's go to Numbers chapter 36. And see, they're going to be attracted to men that have that in them, and they don't know what that is. See, if you have daughters of the priesthood, you have, some of them just have this thing. They say, well, I love a man that loves God. They don't know what that is. They don't know what that is. They haven't got enough understanding to know what that is. They just say, I just love a man. Even before they knew what God's name was, I just love a man that loves God. They don't know what that is. Okay, that's your priestly nature in there. But sometimes it gets skewed out in the world. Numbers chapter 36, and let's start that at verse 1.
And the chief fathers of the families of the children of Gilead, the son of Micah, the son of Manasseh, of the families of the sons of Joseph, came there and spake before Moshe and before the princes, the chief fathers of the children of Israel. And they said, Yahweh commanded my master to give the land for an inheritance by lot to the children of Israel. And my master was commanded by Yahweh to give the inheritance of Zelophehad, our brother, unto his daughters.
Because he has no sons, then now they are inheriting the land of the father. Okay, go ahead.
And if they be married to any of the sons of the other tribes of the children of Israel, then shall their inheritance be taken from the inheritance of our fathers, and shall be put to the inheritance of the tribe whereunto they are received. So shall it be taken from the lot of our inheritance. And when the jubilee of the children of Israel shall be, then shall their inheritance be put onto the inheritance of the tribe whereunto they are received.
They are received. Wait a minute. The women are received. The women will then be received unto the man who takes them on. Well, then, if that's the case, wait a minute. You understand that Jewish through your mother could never have come from this book. You have to have a whole nother doctrine. You have to have a whole nother set of reading. It can't come from this, or none of this chapter makes sense. None of it. It should have never even been a question. If one can be Jewish through their mother. This is why you have to get off into reading these other books. This is why you got to go into La La Land and start reading about angels. Because somebody needs you to stay out of this. Go ahead.
So shall their inheritance be taken away from the inheritance of the tribe of our fathers.
Well, wait a minute. So if the inheritance is given